Okay. So yesterday we were discussing the differences in the different storage modes, and importantly, we discussed the differences between the import mode and the direct query mode when we ended the class yesterday. And I had told you that we will start with the live connection and this thing in the next class. So let's start with it. So the thing is, live connection is very much similar to the direct query. I mean, it is almost same to same, but the only difference is that in live connection, we get the data in the cube form. Okay, we get the data which looks like the data which is in the cube form. Now, I hope everyone knows what the data in the cube form means, or do you not?
No.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell you what the data in the cube form looks like. So, for example, we'll go a bit ahead so that we'll be able to show this. Now, I hope this is visible. Okay. Now, this is one of the OLAP system, and the OLAP is online analysis processing systems, and this basically is the data which looks like in the cube form. Now, let me try explaining this. Okay. Now, if you look at the y-axis, okay, if you look at the y-axis in here, you have a certain dimension. What is that dimension? It basically is the product category, right? That is accessories, bikes, clothing, component. With me till now? Yes?
Yes.
Now, if you look at the z-axis, that is this axis, what is this showing us? Anyone? Yeah?
It shows the transactions
It is
as
showing
per the time.
timeline, isn't it? The z-axis, it is showing us the timeline basically. That is Jan 2015 Jan, 2015 Feb till 2015 May. Okay. Whereas if you look at the x-axis, okay, if you look at the x-axis now, here is where we can store, as you said, the measures like transactions. Okay, or for example, the profits. Okay, now let's say if I deal with this particular cube, okay, and let's say we are showing transactions in x-axis. So this cube, what it means? It means that the transactions of what? Components in which time? In which month? Anyone?
February.
No, it is Jan, right? The first cube here.
Yeah. Okay.
This one below, I mean, this one and corresponding to that in the below, that would be February.
Yeah, got it.
So this kind of data, which looks like it's in the cube form, this, I mean, this is called as the data in the cube form. Hope everyone is understanding this. How about the rest of the people? Yes or no? Okay. Nonetheless, I'll try to show you how the data in the cube form, it looks like in, let's say, even in Excel. Okay. So let's say we have a Excel file like this, which is presently the orders table. Okay, this is orders table, and it has various details of the sales transactions that are happening. For example, this order, I mean, this is primary key, which is row ID. Then there is order priority, then the price, then shipping cost, customer name, shipping mode, product category, subcategory, and many more details. Okay, so I'll try to create a cube kind of analysis from this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to insert, and then I'll go to the pivot table, and yeah, I'll need a new worksheet for that. And now in here, what I'll do is on the row sides, I'll get certain details. Like for example, yeah, the product subcategory, I'll get into rows, and then maybe the shipping mode. Okay, the shipping mode I'll get in columns, and I'll get certain measure, like you said, transaction, or maybe the profit. Okay, that I'll get into the value side. Okay, now if you see this, this axis, basically what it is showing us, it is showing us the product subcategories. Agree? Yes or no? The rows in here of the first column, they are basically product categories. Whereas these columns, if you see here, what are those? Those are shipping modes. Okay. Whereas the data which is inside this, or the values, what they correspond to? They correspond to the corresponding profit. For example, if you consider this particular value, what it shows? It shows for office machines and for the delivery truck or the shipping mode, for the office machines which are coming from the shipping mode delivery truck, what is the profit? It is this much. Hope it is clear, people.
Yes, Pawan.
Okay, so this kind of data which looks like this, it's usually called as the data in the cube form. Okay, and now let me tell you, usually the data in the cube form, it will come from the tools like SSAS, okay, or Azure Analysis Services. Okay, so if the data comes from there, it usually is the data in the cube form. Okay, and when that happens, Power BI ultimately will be used just as the final reporting tool, means just bringing in the measures into the visuals. You are doing nothing else apart from that. Okay, so that is what we call the live connection, and the live connection behaves exactly similar to direct query, apart from the fact that in live connection the data will be of the cube form. Okay, and now let's come to the final thing, that is the last storage mode, the dual storage mode, or it's also called as composite mode, or the hybrid mode. Okay, now the thing about this is, let's say you have a setup in Power BI, or setup in a Power BI model, where some of the tables, they're coming by a direct query, whereas another set of tables, they are coming from import mode. Okay, now this kind of arrangement, we call it as dual mode, or composite mode, or hybrid mode. Hope that is clear, people.
Yes, Pawan.
Yeah, okay. So this is about the different types of storage modes in Power BI. And this is very important to learn, because this also will be asked as an interview question, and it is predominantly asked interview question. Okay, they almost always ask this question. So please read this in detail, and I hope I have made the elaborate explanation on this. Okay, so now let's start using the Power Query editor, and let's start getting our hands dirty by cleaning the data. Okay, so let's start with that. And to do the same, I have opened the new Power BI instance in this. Okay, and before we actually get the data from different sources, what I'll do is I'll show you the initial settings that needs to be done in order to use Power Query Editor to its full manual potential. Now, why I'm saying the manual? Manual, I'm saying because we'll be doing certain steps manually, but sometimes what happens, the Power BI does it by itself automatically. But I don't want Power BI to do automatically. I want us to do it instead. Okay, so let's see what are those settings. Okay, so first of all, what I'll do is I'll go to file and settings. So it basically is here. Okay, so file, then options and settings, and then again options. It'll open in some time. Yeah. And now in options and settings, basically in options, we have two set of options. One is global, another is current file. Okay. Global and current file. So here what you need to do in global, you see the data load. Okay. And here it is set to always detect column types and headers for unstructured sources. And this you need to change it to never detect column types and headers for unstructured sources. Clear? And not just that, in global, you need to go to one more settings, that is the regional settings. And in regional settings, you need to make sure that this language is set to English US. Okay, so that's the second thing. And then you need to go to the current file. Okay, and in the current file, you again need to go to the data load. Okay, and in the data load, what you need to do is here by default, import relationships from the data sources on the first load is selected, but you need to unselect it. Okay, and also this one, auto detect, this also you need to uncheck. Okay, so once this is done, you also need to go to the regional setting of the current file, and there you need to make sure again the language is set to English and US. Hope it is clear. Okay, now I'll click on OK. Okay, and now let me show you how to save this file first. Okay, so I'll go to file again, and I'll go to save as, and I'll go to browse this device, and yeah, I'll want to save it as start file. Okay, and I'll save it as start file. Great. Now let's try getting some actual data, and let's start with cleaning the data or profiling the data. Okay, so let's go and get the data. Let's go to the home tab, and in the home tab, you'll be having the get data icon. You need to click on that, and then there, the type of file I'm trying to bring now is the CSV file, and that option is directly available here. So I'll directly click on it. And now the file that I'm trying to bring is called this one, the orders 2017 file. Okay, so let's do that. If I click open by selecting it, it should show me the option to either load it or transform it. Okay, so it looks like this. Just by having a look at it, can you tell me that, does it look a clean and uniform data, or does it look non-uniform? Anyone?
No, it's not uniform.
It's not uniform, right? It has many errors, it has many blanks and NA values, undesirable values in this. Okay, so let's go to transform data, so that we will end up in Power Query editor, and there we can begin cleaning the data. Okay. Okay, now as you see, we are in the Power Query editor window, and let me show that. Here, a completely new window has been opened. Now, the previous window that we were in is Power BI Desktop, but now one of the sub-component is open, that is Power Query Editor, like this. Okay, Power Query Editor. Now, just by having a look at this table, can you guys tell me from which row the actual data starts? Anyone?
From 5.
From row number 5, right? Because above these 4 rows are almost useless, right? They don't have any considerable or credible data. So first of all, let me just show you. On the left pane, the table name will be mentioned like it is here. On the right pane, you'll be adding the applied steps as and when the new transformation steps are added. Okay, so let's start with that. Okay, so let me start by deleting certain rows. Okay, now all you need to do is you need to, in the home tab here, there is a icon remove rows. Okay. And in remove rows, what you need to do is you need to select top rows, and it will ask you how many top rows that you need to remove. Okay. And how many is it?
4.
4, right? But let's say I deleted only 2 rows. Okay. But now I want to change this. Okay. But if you might think that it has to be done by again going here and again removing next 2 rows, that would be a kind of unnecessary step. Instead, what you can do is here beside the apply step, can you see the gear icon? You just need to click on the gear icon. So it will take you back to that step again. So instead of 2 rows, now how many rows I actually want to remove? 4 rows.
4.
Okay. So I'll click on 4, then I'll click on OK, so that the 4 rows will be removed. Okay. Now, so can you see there is one applied step which has been applied? That is, you have removed the top rows, that is top 4 rows. Okay. Now, what is the next legit step? Anyone? What is the next step that can be done or that is to be done?
Remove blank rows.
Yes, I agree. But can you see the first row? What is the first row actually? Can you just have a look and tell me?
Header.
It's a column headers, right? The first rows here are column headers. Okay. So let's make them column headers. Now, if you again look clearly into the home tab, there is an option here which says use first rows as headers. Can you see this? So if you click on that, this first row will become the header. Okay, so that's what happens. Now, the next thing to be done, as you said, is removing the blank rows. Okay, and removing the blank rows. And how that is supposed to be done is, again, you need to go to remove rows, and there at the second bottom step, you can see that there is an option remove blank rows. And basically what happens here, if you click on this, see what it's saying, remove all blank rows from this table. Okay, so basically if you click on this, all the rows which are totally blank, they will be removed. Okay, so if I do that, now you see the rows which are completely blank, they have gone. Okay, the rows which were completely blank, they have gone. But yeah, there are blanks in this, but that doesn't matter because the corresponding rows in the other columns, they are not blank. Hope you're getting this point, people.
Yes, Pavan.
Now, let us try to go to the first column, which says order ID. And this is a fact table, basically. And do you know what is the difference between a fact table and the dimension table? Anyone? Yes or no?
Yeah. Fact table shows the current transactions, and dimension tables are the lookup tables, basically. Like for employee and department, department is a dimension table, and the employee table is a fact table.
Employee table also, is it not the dimension table which gives you the information about employees?
Yeah, but suppose if it shows the, like the table which is been used for daily transactions, or this is the main table, main data it holds.
So
Like for
basically, the table which shows you the measures. For example, in the employee table, you have stored the measures like employee salary, then that is a fact table, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let me just give you an example. So if I go to this particular Excel file, which I've opened, and this is not what I brought in Power BI, but let me explain what is the dimension table and fact table in this. Okay. Now, if I remove this, because this I had created just to show the cube form data, let me delete it. Now, if you see, it has 3 set of tables. One is order table, then return table, then user details. Okay. Now, the thing is, if I look into this particular table, that is the first order table. Okay. Now, the main purpose of order table would be to give you the details of each and every order, right? Agree? Yes or no?
Yes.
And each and every transaction will be identified by its order number. Yes. And that transaction number, basically this transaction number, for example, that is 20847. It consists of a lot of details. Lot of details in the sense the customer name, the shipping mode for that particular order, the product which had been ordered, and the category that which it belongs to, subcategory which it belongs to. But mainly it consists of certain monetary details. What are those? Can you see there is a profit which is being mentioned here? Then there is the sales which is mentioned here, and the quantities which were ordered, that is also mentioned here. Now, these people are actually the measures by which the business can be analyzed. Are you getting me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And due to the presence of these measures, what measures? Profit, order sales, order quantity and sales, and maybe also something else like the product base margin. Due to the presence of these columns in this particular table, this table is called as the fact table. Okay. This is trying to give us the fact in terms of these measures. Okay. Whereas there is one more table, that is the user table. What it consists of, it just gives us the details, very small detail. What is that? Region and the manager of that region. Okay, now let me show you. There might be region here as well. Can you see the region here in the fact table? This dimension table is just trying to give you the information about those regions. For central region, who is the manager? For east region, who is the manager? Okay. And similarly, there might be different dimension tables like the customer information table, wherein you'll be having the details of the customers and their maybe their addresses, okay, and their details like, let's say, their gender, their DOB, okay, all those things. So that would be customer dimension table. And there might be other dimension tables like, for example, the product dimension table, wherein you might be having the information stored like the product, the category which it belongs to, the subcategory which it belongs to, all those stuff. Okay, and just that. Okay, and that might be called as the product dimension table. Okay, so that's the primary difference between the dimension table and the fact table, people. So is it clear to everyone? And this is important because let's say if you have not worked on the data analysis or maybe in this particular BI field, so these some of these things which I'm mentioning right now, like the dimension table and fact table, the differences between them should be clear to you. Okay, so hope everyone has understood this concept of dimensions and facts.
Yes,
About the rest of the people, if you have any doubt with respect to what I'm talking about, please do ask without any hesitation, without any sort of hesitation. I'd be very happy to explain that once again, not a problem. Okay, so that's my kind request to you all. So let's move ahead with this. So we were in the Power Query editor and we were discussing about this table. Now, just by having a look at this table, now can anyone tell me, is it a dimension table or a fact table? Yes,
it's a fact table.
it is a fact table, right? Because if you see, it has order details, and importantly, it has the details of certain measures like what? Like sales quantity, like revenue, like stock available, like the price. Okay, so all these things are measures, and it's called as measure table or a fact table. Now, one more question for you all. Now, all these order details are characterized by one primary key. What is that? Or identified by one primary key. What is that? Yes, people? which is the primary key in this table?
The ID.
Order ID is the primary key, because every order in here is identified by the order number or order ID. Similarly, if let's say you do any transaction in ATM machine, okay, that transaction will be identified by that transaction ID, and corresponding to that, it will be having the details like what all transactions you did, how much of the amount you either deposited or withdrawn, and maybe the date and time, all the details of it. What is your, the current amount that is there in your bank. So all those details will be there, but all those details will be corresponding to that particular transaction ID. And similarly here, this whole data is actually identified by the order ID, which is the primary key for this particular fact table. Okay. And if you look at order ID, and if we try to think about what is the next logical way to go on to clean the data, can anyone tell me what would that be? Yes.
Primary cannot be duplicated.
Primary key should not be having duplicate values, right? So there are certain constraints of primary keys. All of you know what are those? The one which you mentioned is one of them, for sure.
And the data cannot be null for the primary key.
Exactly. It should not, the primary key should be unique, and the primary key should not be blank or null. Hope everyone has understood this, or everyone knows this. Okay. So let's start doing that. Okay. And if you look at this, the NA values, okay, the two NA values which are seen here, and if you see the corresponding values from other columns for them, they also don't make any sense, right? They're also NA values, right? So it would be not wrong to delete these two NA values. Agree?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'll do, I'll go to this drop down menu. Okay. And therein, if I click on the drop down of that particular column, I'll be taken to all the values, all the unique values that the column has to offer me. Okay. So if I go down along this, I'll be having these NA values. So what I'll do, I'll simply uncheck the values, uncheck these NA values, and click on OK. And now if you see, a new step has been added. Can you see this?
Yes.
And what's the new step? The new step is where you have filtered those NA values. Okay, so those NA values are not at all existing now in this column. Okay, now that is about the NA values, people. Now, next thing, as you said, we also need to make sure the primary key does not have any duplicate values. Now, can you see, are there any duplicate values in this? In the
Yes,
primary key?
three.
Yeah, these three rows are basically the same things, right? And if you have a look at their corresponding values from other columns, they're also same. If you see here, these three are same. Here again, these three are same. This is same. And similarly, the rest are also same. Okay, so it makes sense to remove the duplicate rows. Okay, so I'll select this column and then I'll go to remove rows. Okay, and there what I can do is I can select on remove duplicates. Okay, and once that is done, now you can see that all those duplicate rows have been removed. With me till now, people?
Yes.
Okay, so now the duplicate rows have been removed. Okay, and now let's think of the other things that need to be cleaned in here. Okay, so if you look at the third column, and if you click on the drop down to look at the values that it has to offer. Okay, now all the values that are there in this third column are either blanks or NAs or null values. Okay. So does it make sense for us to delete this column completely? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But one more thing, let me tell you, whenever you are into any industrial project, okay, before doing this, before deleting the columns, always have a word with your data engineers, because most of the times these kind of functions, the ETL engineers or the data engineers themselves will be doing. Okay. Yeah. So in real time scenario, you will come very rarely, not rarely, but yeah, sometimes you have to accomplish all these Power Query editor steps. Usually all these transformations, they will do in the backend, especially if you are into some bigger project. Okay, so all these steps will be done in the backend, and what you get into the Power BI will be almost ready-made stuff, which is a cleaned data. Hope that is clear. But understanding this is also important, because if they don't do it from the backend, you'll be having to do it in Power BI. So understanding of the Power Query editor is very much essential. Hope that is clear. Yeah. Now let me remove this column, and the removal of the column is also very simple. Okay, all you need to do is you need to click on this column, and you need to click on remove column and simply remove this column. Okay, so that particular column will be removed. But yeah, there are more ways to do it. Let me show you how. Okay, so let's say again, if you have chosen, if you have done this, and let's say if you want to remove other columns apart from this, okay, you need to only just keep this column, or let's say there are some 2-3 columns which you want to keep. I'm just control and selecting those columns. And let's say if you want to remove other columns, so what you can do is you can go to remove columns, and then you can select on remove other columns. So what will happen, apart from these 4 selected columns, the rest of the columns will be deleted. Okay, but I don't want that. I'll just cancel the step. And yeah, you can always cancel the applied step and go back to previous step. Clear, people? And not just that, there's one more way to delete the unwanted columns. Okay, let me show you that. You can just simply go to choose columns option, and in choose column option there are 2 options. That is, one is choose columns, another is go to column. You need to click on choose columns, and there what you can do is here directly you can choose which all columns you want to keep and which all you want to delete. So let's say if I delete certain columns by this, and if I click on OK, only those columns will be kept which are chosen there. Okay, so that has happened, but let me clear that step. I want to only right now, I want to just delete this column. Okay, so I'll do that. So I'll click on this column and I'll click on remove columns, and I'll just click on remove column. So that particular column will be deleted. Okay. So I hope everything is clear till now, the things which we are doing here.
Yes.
Pawan,
Please.
the initial steps that you have shown, like the settings, those settings are only for file data or for table data as well?
Which settings?
The one that you shown before.
This one, right? Yeah. This options and settings?
Yes.
So what's the question? These are only for?
These are only for the file, like XLS file or CSV file, or for the data as for
No,
tabular data.
These settings are for the whole data, no matter what kind of data you are dealing with. Okay.
Okay. And these are the some things that Power BI do it by the these.
Yeah. If you let's say
it was default settings.
If you keep it on, let's say if you always detect the column types, you need not go there and mention manually the data types. Okay. But I want to do that because that is necessary to be demonstrated. So that's the reason I've kept it. Okay.
Okay. So basically, these are the default settings of Power BI.
Yeah, those are the default settings. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I showed you how to delete the columns in different ways. Okay. And let's also try to, let me also show you how to maybe rename the columns. Okay. So that is very simple actually. For example, the store ID, if you want to rename it and make the store capital there, you just need to double click on it and just need to enter the name that you want to enter. As simple as that. Okay. So that's about renaming the columns. Okay. And now let me show you one very important thing that is necessary to be understood. Okay. If you click on this thing called as advanced editor. Now, just try having a look. I'll give you some 30 seconds maybe. Okay. Now just tell me what is happening here. Can anyone tell me?
Steps are recorded in means encoded, whatever steps
Yeah.
that we
So
have.
basically, this is nothing but a code which has been generated. And if you remember, I have not written this code, right? So this code has been generated from Power Query editor itself. And if you look at each and every line, can you see the first line, what it mentions? The source, where the file is coming from, right? Yes or no? Then, if you look at the second step, okay, if you look at the second step, so what is this first thing? That is this second step. What it mentions?
The first step that we applied.
The first step. What we did in the first step? We removed top 4 rows. Remember that?
Yeah.
And actually the code for that is table.skip. Okay. The actual M code for that is table.skip. And here you need to, I mean, this source which you're seeing, right? What is that? It is the title of the previous step. That is this. Can you see this?
Yeah.
And how many rows you want to skip? 4. That has been mentioned here. Okay. Now let's go to the third step. What it says, the third step is named as promoted headers. But let's see what is the actual code to promote the headers. It is table.promote headers. Okay. It is table.promote headers. But for what? From the previous step. What was the previous step? Can you see? Previous step was removed top 4 top rows. So that has been mentioned here, the previous steps. Getting the point now, people? Are you able to understand this now?
Yes.
Okay. And if I go to the next step, what we did there, we removed the blank rows. And the code for that is table.select rows. Okay. And it starts with the previous step. Okay. That is promoted headers. And again, this is the part of the code which comes like this. Okay. And now the thing to be noted is that in interviews, you might come across the people or interviewers who might ask you, have you worked on the M language? Okay. Or basically this code which you're seeing, it is called as M code or mashup language, which is the engine on which Power Query editor works. Now, the thing about that is you can never remember all these M codes because presently there are more than 700 M codes which the Power BI has or that is listed in Microsoft Power BI website. Okay, so we cannot actually remember all of those, but what I'll do is I will give you a Word file which contains the details of the M codes which are predominantly used or often used. So what you can do is you can go through that, and in the interviews, if they ask you such questions, have you worked on the M codes or mashup language code, you can tell them, yes, you have worked on it. I have used predominantly most widely used M functions. Okay. Hope that is clear, people.
Pawan, other than Power BI, where that M language has been used in.
I'm not aware of that actually. Yeah,
Okay.
because I have not come across where the situation where I have used M code anywhere else apart from Power BI. Okay.
So this is Power BI's language only.
Yeah, it's Power BI's language only. Okay, which is mashup code. Okay. But yeah, there is one more engine, that is DAX engine, which is used in Power BI desktop. And that DAX is also used in some other software like the DAX Studio. Okay. But M language also might be having the similar recurrences in other software, but I'm not aware of that. Okay. It might be used somewhere, but I have not used it myself. Okay. So this is about M code. And as I said, I'll share with you a file which will be containing predominantly used M codes. You can go through them, and that will also be helpful for you if you are planning to clear the PL300 certification. I hope you all know the PL300 certification or not.
No, not.
Okay, let me tell you about that. See, Microsoft, they themselves offer this certification, which is called as PL300. Okay. The advantage of this is that if you're looking for jobs, you will get more interviews if you have this certification. Okay, that is for sure. And if you're already into the jobs, this certification will lead to, it is a credibility on your part, and you might get good, let's say, the pay raise. Okay. And the thing about this is, if you clear this, Microsoft will give you a certification, and in that certification, it will be mentioned as Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst associate. Okay, so all these things will be, I mean, this certification is basically, they'll be, if you clear it, you will be a Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst associate. Okay, but one problem with this is its validity is only for 1 year. But nonetheless, within that year, you can make a good use of it. It will add weightage to your resume. Okay, and maybe you can clear it once more next year. Okay, and in terms of INR, I think the examination fee for this is somewhere around 5,500 to 600. Sorry, 6,000 rupees. Okay, so that's the thing. So that's about the PL300. And if you want to clear the PL300, this course which we are going through, that will be really helpful for you. And not just that, the file which I'm sharing regarding the this thing, that is the mashup language code, that also will be helpful for you. Hope that is clear.
Pawan, the difference that you have explained about live connection and direct query, that I actually did not understand what is the exactly difference between them.
See, as I said, there is actually no difference between that. Okay, only difference is that if, let's say, your data is coming from, let's say, the analysis services, okay, like SSAS or Azure Analysis Services. So usually the data coming from those sources would be in the cube form, and to them you'll be connecting via live connection. Rest is all very much similar to direct query only. Okay. Or let me just open the PBI and also actually show you what the live connection actually looks like. Okay.
Pawan, joined little late. Sorry for that.
Not a problem. Yeah.
I don't understand why we use this M language. Like, I think Power BI is used for itself. Why we need in this Power BI?
Why we need this? I'll tell you. let's say, okay. For example, let us say, if you have done all these steps, okay, for example, you have completed all these steps, and let's say your sources was previously coming from one database or one SQL database, but you just need to change that. Are you getting the point? So then you need not delete all these steps and come right from the start. But what you can do is you can go to advanced editor instead. And this step you can edit from here. Getting the point?
Okay.
Okay. So doing these kind of things will be helpful if you want to reduce the double work. And that's the reason a basic knowledge of M language will be necessary. Although you are seeing here that I'm not doing anything in terms of M language, as I'm going on adding the new steps, the M language here is updating by itself. Okay. And that's the reason maybe you might have asked this question, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But as I said, it will be helpful in some cases. Okay. And yeah, coming back to the question which was asked, that is the difference between live connection and the direct query. So the thing is, we can also establish the live connection to the Power BI datasets that we have stored in Power BI service. Although the details about that we'll be discussing in the time when we come across Power BI service. But just let me show how I can establish live connection in that. Okay. So here I've opened a new Power BI instance. I'll go to get data and I'll click on Power BI datasets. Okay. So if I do that, I have some data sets already stored in my workspace in Power BI service. So let us get one among them. Maybe this Superstore sales. Okay. I'll go to that and I'll connect to it. It'll take a bit of time. Yeah. Now, now I have established a live connection with that data set. Okay. And can you see the tables are available here? But can you figure out one difference? What is that? Again, if you see, I don't have the data view, right? I only have the model view. And this was exactly what we saw in the direct query, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The same thing we are experiencing again in the live connection. So what I'm trying to say is, in live connection, you'll be getting in the data which will be in the cube form, or maybe you can connect to Power BI data sets, which also can be connected by live connection. So it is similar to direct query only. Only difference is the cube form of data. Okay. Right now, I don't have the cube form of data, but yeah, if you want to connect to, let's say, Azure Analysis Services or SSAS, for example, you can connect it via a live connection. Hope that is clear now.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just close this particular instance and let me go back here. Okay. So what we discussed just now is about the mashup language, or it's also called as M code. And remember, M code is only applicable in Power BI in Power Query Editor. Okay, nowhere else. Okay, we come across M code only when we talk about Power Query Editor, because in Power BI Desktop, there is no M code. It's only for Power Query Editor. Okay, so it's about that. Now, let me show you one more thing. Let's say you want to rearrange the order of the columns. Okay, for example, if you, let's say, want to bring this like here, something like that, that also can be done. Okay, but the thing is that also will be recorded as a new step. Getting the point, people?
Yeah.
So I'll just close that step. Okay, so that's about that. And now what I'll do is I have done certain transformations now. Okay, now let's say you have done certain transformations and you want to go to Power BI Desktop to see whether they have worked or not. So let's try doing that. So for that, what you need to do is here there is close and apply button. All you need to do is you need to close and apply. Click on close and apply. And once you do that, what will happen is the imported data which you have imported from, let's say, some CSV file, it goes through all the transformation steps that you have done in Power Query Editor, and then it gets loaded into Power BI Desktop. Okay, and in Power BI Desktop, you can view the same if you go to the table view. Okay, let it get loaded, just a second. Yeah. Can you see this? This is visible in clean form only in Power BI Desktop. So in a way, we can say that now, let me show you the type of file we had imported. Okay. Now we had actually brought this file. That is, the input file was this. Remember this? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, what is happening? I'll tell you. In Power BI Desktop, that file is going through all the transformation steps. Which transformation steps? The steps which we have done in what? Power Query Editor. And then it gets loaded into Power BI Desktop. Getting the point, people? So all those steps, we can say they will be the part of kind of an automation. And let's say if you add any new data in here, or if there are new rows or records are added, again, if you refresh, if you press the refresh button in Power BI, what will happen? Again, that data will be entered, but again, that will go through all the what?
Transformation steps.
Okay, and then it will come into Power BI Desktop. Hope that is clear, people.
Pawan, how you are shifting from this window to Power Query Editor?
Yeah, see, the thing is, by default, Power Query window will not be available. Okay, you need to go to Home tab, and then you need to click on Transform Data icon, so that you'll be taken to Power Query Editor. Clear?
And how you're coming back to that desktop?
There are two ways. Basically, if you have already applied the steps, you need not click on that. But if you want to, I mean, if let's say you have applied any new steps and if you want it to get applied, then you can click on close and apply, or you can directly close this window and come back to Power BI Desktop, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Fine. So this is about some of the steps that we have done in Power Query Editor. So till now, any doubts, people?
Whatever transformations we have applied, that are not applied on the actual data, right? Actual data is as
No.
it is.
Actual data is this data, right? Which is in the backend. The backend will stay as it is. Okay. Power BI will never do anything to the backend data.
Like first data will be imported, transformations will be applied, and then data will be available to us in the Power BI.
Exactly. The data will, I mean, I have used the import mode now because the direct query and live connections are only available for the databases. But right now we are not using the database, we are using the CSV file. So for CSV file, the direct query is not applicable. So yes, you're right. The data has come into Power BI. It is stored in Power BI and it is compressed by help of an engine. What is that engine called? Anyone? Vertipack compressor engine, and then it goes through all the transformation steps that we did in Power Query Editor, and then it is loaded into Power BI Desktop. Hope that is clear.
So can we list one of the difference that direct query and live connection do not works with any file? It works with databases only. Yes,
direct query is for databases. Yes.
Okay.
And let me show you one more thing. Let's say, for example, if you place this file somewhere else, if you change its location, for example, okay. So right now this file is here where we connected it from Power BI Desktop. Now let me just copy and paste it somewhere else. Like this. Okay, it's not happening because I opened it here. Let me close this. You try again. Yeah, now it's done. Now let me show you what happens. If I go to the transform data now, you'll see a weird thing now. Now, can you see this red line?
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And let's say, and red line is actually a sign of the error. And let me show you what exactly is happening. If I try to refresh this now, can you see what it says? Could not find the file. Okay, it says could not find the file. So what you need to do is you need to change the data source. And how to do that? You need to go to data source settings. Okay, and you need to click on change source. And then you need to point it to the exact location where you have stored that file now, like this. And then again, if you click, and close, and now let me refresh this. Okay, all the data is back. Okay, but although there are some errors, and those errors are due to some other things like maybe non-uniformity of the data, blanks and all the things, but we'll go through them later because this data is still not completely clean. Okay, it has certain blank values, certain columns which need to be edited, because if you see sales quantity is supposed to be what kind of a data type? Anyone? Yeah,
Number.
it should be a number, right? But here, if you see, it says 0 sales, 2 sales, 1 sales, 5 sales. It's a string here, isn't it? So that will not make sense. So it still needs further refining of the data, and that we'll do in next class. Okay. So
But
as per
Pawan, previously it was not showing any error, right? When we
yeah,
cleaned the
previously
data.
it was not showing error, but Power BI is like that. If you come to one of the instances which happened previously, then it will show you the errors. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
works that way. Okay. So yeah, any doubt with respect to what has been covered in today's class? Or any doubt with respect to what has been covered till today?
No.
Okay. Fine, then I'll stop sharing, and yeah. And also I need to stop the recording.
Pawan, could you share that database that we
Yeah,
discussed
I'll
yesterday?
definitely share. I mean, you are talking about the
That
different data which we brought from different data sources, right?
that adventure works and the files that you've shown today.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll share all those datas. Okay, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.